Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Krishna. Api, also. Govinda, one who enlivens the cows and the senses. One who enlivens the cows and the senses. Brahmanyaha, devoted to the devotees or the Brahmins. Bhakta Vatsalaha, affectionate to the devotees. Affectionate to the Brahmins. Kachit, whether. Pure, in Dwarkapuri, Sudharmayam, pious assembly, Sukham, happiness, Aste, does enjoy, Suhrit Vitaha, surrounded by friends. Bhagavan api govindo brahmanyo bhakta vatsalaha kachit pure sudharmayam sukham aste suvidvataha. Translation. He is Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who gives pleasure to the cows, the senses, and the Brahmins, who is very affectionate towards his devotees, enjoying the pious assembly at Dwarkapuri surrounded by friends. Please repeat. This is Lord Krishna.
This is Lord Krishna.
The Supreme Personality of a Godhead.
The Supreme Personality of God.
Who gives pleasure to the cows.
Gives pleasure to the cows.
The senses. And the Brahmanas. Who is very affectionate towards his devotees. Enjoying the pious assembly. At Dwarkapuri, surrounded by friends. Of course, this is Yudhishthir inquiring from Arjuna for more. Here in this particular verse, the Lord is described as Bhagavan, Govinda, Brahmanya, and Bhaktavatsalha. He is Bhagavan Swayam, or the original personality of Godhead, full with all opulences, all power, all knowledge, all beauty, all fame, and all renunciation. No one is equal to or greater than him. He is Govinda because he is the pleasure of the cows and the senses. Those who have purified their senses by devotion and service of the Lord can render unto him real service, and thereby derive transcendental pleasure out of such purified senses. Only the impure conditioned living being cannot derive any pleasure from the senses, but being illusioned by false pleasures of the senses, becomes servant of the senses. Therefore, we need Krishna's protection for our own interest. The Lord is the protector of the cows, and the Brahminical culture, a society devoid of cow protection. The Brahminical culture is not under the direct protection of the Lord, just as the prisoners in jails are not under the protection of the king, but under the protection of a severe agent of the king. Without cow protection and cultivation of Brahminical qualities in human society, at least for a section of the members of society, no human civilization can prosper at any length. For Brahminical culture, the development of the dormant qualities of goodness, namely truthfulness, equanimity, sense control, forbearance, simplicity, general knowledge, transcendental knowledge, and firm faith in the Vedic wisdom, one can become a Brahmana and thus see the Lord as he is. Samodamo taposo cham kshantra arjvam evacha yana vigyana astakam Brahma Karma Swabhavachan. It's from the 18th chapter. And Krishna is giving the qualities of the Shudras, Vaishyas, Kshatriyas, and Brahmanas. This is the Brahmanas. Hansabuddha said, unless you know this verse, you're not a Brahmana. Shama, Dhamma, Tapo, Soksham. Each of these. And after surpassing the Brahminical perfection, one has to become a devotee of the Lord. With his loving affection in the form of proprietor, master, friend, son, and lover can be transcendently achieved. The stage of a devotee which attracts the transcendental effect of the Lord does not develop unless one has developed the qualities of a Brahmana, as mentioned above. The Lord is inclined to be a Brahmana of quality and not of false prestige. Those who are less than a Brahmana by qualification cannot establish any relationship with the Lord, just as fire cannot be kindled from the raw earth unless there is wood. Although there is a relation between wood and the earth. Since the Lord is all perfect in himself, there could not be any question of his welfare. And Maharaj Yudhishthira refrained from asking this question. He simply inquired about his residential palace, Dwarka, Puri, where pious men assembled. The Lord stays only where pious men assemble and takes pleasure in their glorification. The supreme, glorifying the supreme truth. Maharaj Yudhishthira was anxious to know about the pious men and their pious acts in the city of Dwarka. Wow. A long verbal. Any comments or questions? Yes, sir.
The Prabhupada mentions the Prabhupada, it's kind of interesting. He says it's general knowledge and it's this transcendental knowledge.
Yeah.
The general knowledge, he's saying it's so big to know about, read a newspaper or get something or.
Yeah, the Sanskrit is Jnana Vijnana, right? Jnana Vijnana Sastikam. Yeah. Yes. Also translated sometimes you can see a general knowledge and scientific knowledge. Somebody may know roughly how a car works. Somebody else has they manufacture the things, even though you can even find the specifications on this piston size. It's like that. Yeah. So Jnana Vijnana. So good. Prabhupada says he already, is in the back of his mind. Yeah. Already he's appreciating, suspicious that Krishna's gone. Because it can't really be any of these symptoms he's experiencing and explaining it to Bhima. She jackals vomiting fire. Yeah. Dogs circumambulating me backwards or something, He's describing all these things, the deities in the temple, howling and complaining. Better? It's closer. Oh, okay. Yeah. So all these things can only be possible really if Krishna's gone. So but at the same time too, he doesn't want to really face the fact and deal with it. So he's indirectly pussyfooting around the problem. And when he sees Arjuna, he's even more convinced. He's asking about everybody, and he's asking about, Dwarka Puri, like that. So I think maybe this verse or the next verse will actually then come to the statement, or is it that Krishna has left the planet? But of course, Prabhupada is saying devotees never out of separation from Krishna. And we always remember that one man apparently asked Prabhupada, he said, "Show me God." And Prabhupada said, "Show me something that is not God." If your devotee is gradually, the basic principle is Bhumirapo Nalo Vayu Mano Bhudre Vacha Hankara Vikahakara Itiyame Vine Ashtada. Yeah. Krishna says, I'm everything you can smell, I'm everything you can taste, I'm everything you can see, I'm everything you can feel, I'm everything you can hear, I'm everything you can think, I'm everything you can understand, I'm everything you can be. Okay, so it kind of analyzes everything. Our whole experience of the material world is simply based upon the five senses. And after that, it's based upon our mind, and then okay. And so categorically, sometimes Prabhupada would say the spiritual master knows everything. So somebody asked, well, how many windows are there in the building across the street? Yeah, categorically, he knows everything. Yeah. And specific incidents, Paramatma, okay. So pure devotee then is always connected to Krishna. So you just do a separation and just another kind of connection like that. Yeah. Oh boy, there's no breakfast. Since on Sunday someone says, oh, nobody cooking me breakfast. You say, oh good, because now I can, I won't have any temptation. I can fast until the Sunday feast. So and Swami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Nectar of Devotion, he goes into whole details about different kinds of separation and how it's just another form of meeting. And this whole thing is so simply to produce more and more different kinds of rasa and different relationships. Krishna came to Vrindavan, created an empire of loving exchanges, and then declared himself the king, the king of them all. Yeah, this is what's happening. It's under construction. We always like the analogy of Disneyland. Yeah, Disneyland is a place just for enjoying, right? Nobody goes to Disneyland to work. Everybody goes to enjoy. And all kinds of theme parks. You can see that Dhanarama Maharaj was trying to do this theme park based upon Krishna's pastimes. Kali and the River Jamuna. Maybe you have to try and jump from different hoods to different or something. You sit down, and the hoods go and things come at you. Oh. There's a kirtan going on. Yeah, I'm Agasura with a tunnel with bad smells. But again, it's only partially constructed. That's the whole thing. In the spiritual world, there's so many ideas that Krishna has, and how to concentrate different things, connect them up. And so it's just always improving, expanding, more profound, more broad. There's so many ways it can develop. And so then the devotees are, separation and meeting. And then Swami goes through and analyzes meeting and yoga, how these things happen and so on. So even when Radha and Krishna get a chance to meet at night and so many pastimes, we're thinking, oh, but soon it'll be morning and we'll have to separate. But that's just to increase that, increase the other rasa like that. So there's really no separation, and to understand for someone like you to steer. So what is the problem? And if there's no distress from separation and meeting, what is the problem in the spiritual world? What is there is? Rasa bas. Yeah, improper mixture of mellows and stuff. Yeah. Because there are rules then. There are rules. Here people discover, there's Sir Isaac Newton, of course, he was the most, a very religious person, very religious. We mentioned this before, when Gopal Hari was traveling with us in South America. I remember, I'll tell the whole story. I was over in Houston, Texas, and Ananta Rupdas, you may know, he called me up and he was retiring, taking his early retirement, running off with all the money from the backward, negotiating. Want to get me out of here? Okay. And so he was wondering, what'll I do? So we talked, it was about 45 minutes. At the end, I had to change the phone to my left ear started to ache. But it was very, very nice. I remember one of the very nice things, we're going through all these things. What'll I do? That's most people, that's why they don't want to retire, because they think they won't have anything to do. But then we're talking about it. Well, look what you've done. You built an entire temple. You should go good preaching, talking to people, explaining how you did this. And, maybe most of your Indian associates became alcoholics and divorced and, got into these things, and you were able to avoid it. So many people became devotees. Yeah. Okay, and then you can travel and preach with me. Okay, so he said, okay, well, I'll go also. I will go to South America with you. And who was next? Was Gopal was next? And Gopal said, well, I want to come too. And of course, then Mother Buddha said, oh, okay, I want to come. So we're all going together. And then Natarup worked on this whole thing on, it was on temple construction was a history, I think it was a history. But that was another time. Vanapras was a different time like that. Yeah. And very, very nicely researched. Very nice. Yeah. And Gopal said, what do I do? Gopal was getting his diploma in science and religion, I think, yeah. And so he said, well, you should do Sir Isaac Newton, the second apple. The first apple was the law of gravity and physics, okay. The second apple was Sir Isaac Newton as a theologian. He wrote something like about 100,000 words, right? Probably in Latin, probably backwards or something. On theology. Yeah. And I was talking to a Radhika or something, and other people. It appears that they're there. You still have all his works on theology. Finally, somebody from Israel bought them in some library, and nobody's really gone through them. But if he was such a genius in physical sciences, what was he in theology? As far as I understand, his basic idea about Jesus Christ was that Jesus Christ was a empowered jiva soul. He was an individual person like us with Shakti. This wasn't enough, I don't think, to get you killed, but it certainly was enough to get lose all your income and everything else. So he wasn't so public about it. Because that time the idea was that Jesus Christ is God. God has taken a body. Yeah. So he was studying theology, writing about it, I think, until 18 years old, and then he studied material nature until I think it was 21 years old, maybe 23. Yeah. And then he went back to theology. So really, all this stuff he did in physics, the laws of mechanics, the laws of optics, what else we got? Laws of gravity. Yeah. Invented calculus. All this stuff he did basically within 3 years. Any one of them is enough for a Nobel Prize, right? So to speak. Yeah. So see, he was the greatest genius who ever lived in terms of, it was everything. So people said, well, why did you take this time off from theology just to study material nature? And he was a little surprised and said, I never left theology. Yeah. He said, there are 2 books for understanding God, right? The Bible and nature, where God is writing with his own hand. So very, very nice. He was very, very enchanted and enlightened by seeing all these beautiful things, understanding who God is. God is a very systematic person. God is a very rhythmic, beautiful person. I'm kind of surprised he didn't do art. Didn't do sculpture and art and stuff. People like Thomas Jefferson and stuff, they were Da Vinci, all these things. So anyway, that's his example that he was seeing. He was seeing everywhere. Through the laws of Sankhya, and other manifestations, Paramatma. In the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna says, hey, I'm an ordinary guy. How can I meditate on you? How can I think about you? And Paul Krishna says, well, I'm a taste of water. You drink water here. And the light of the sun. Oh, yeah. So, this goes to show him as John Denver made a fortune off his song Sunshine. It's a nice song. Yeah. And he said, I've always been motivated by seeing the beauty in nature, pantheistic. So was that he was Sat, Brahman. Yeah. So Isaac Newton was perceiving all these different resources like that. And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is recommending this. He tells them, yes, see me, I am among animals, I am. Krishna is what? Among the animals. A lion, okay. Keep on going here from one point, okay. Among bodies of water, Krishna is? Ocean, okay. Among mountains, he is? That's harder. Huh? Meru, Mount Meru. Okay, yeah, it's all right. You start with myself looking at it from my background and training in physics and these kind of things, so many things seem to be, based upon advanced physical knowledge. What is not mirror room and stuff? It's like, wow, it's as far as I can tell, it's a magnetic mountain, a geomagnetic mountain. It's a conical shaped mountain with its bottom top, with the pinnacle down, going up, getting broader. Okay. You make a top, right? It spins. Okay. But it also goes like this, right? Yeah. Okay. So the same way the Earth, in terms of the sun, is spinning, really fast. If you look at it from the viewpoint of Brahma, it's going really fast. Okay. Yeah. But then when you get what's the point? Then this kind of motion, which they all know, I think it's like 14,000 years or something. So Dhruva won't be the pole star unless it moves also, and it rotates like that slowly. They can get this figured out. Astronomers, they recognize as modern astronomers. I think it's 14,000 years. But from the point of view of Brahma, how fast is that going? Yeah. And of course, we all know that motion pictures are a series of still pictures, right? Yeah. 24 frames per second, otherwise you starts to flicker. Yeah. It's the same way, at a certain point, this thing is rotating. You can stand on it, you can press it, doesn't matter. It's solid, by everything you can experience. So what do you got now? You've got an electromagnetic, you got a geomagnetic, cone being carved out there. And if you've got magnetic body, there's no chemists here. What's it called? Fractional distillation apparatus, cracking plant. These. If you go by these refineries, you'll see these towers coming up. What it is, they heat the raw materials, and some of it boils at a certain temperature, and some of it boils at a different temperature. In the chemistry laboratory, have a small one. So at a certain level, they're sucking off one substance. Next level, they're sucking off another substance, like that, and so on. So next it describes, okay, this level is the Vayu Devatas, this level is Indraloka, this level. Yeah, because at different levels, it may be going to seem, Brahma has to be really fast before it seems real to Brahma. And again, maybe these are the local embassies in terms of Bhumandala. This is, Indra's. Okay, so that's kind of my looking at. I did this one time in the Sunday feast, and one guy just went rabid, an Indra guy. Total speculation. And devotee there, Maharaj Hansa, was PhD in chemistry. He said, he's an astrophysics student up at the campus. But he's an Indian guy too, so it was really a challenge for him. But then to investigate these things, there's more and more evidence, and as you become a devotee, you begin to realize it's true. Yeah. So if we're looking at all these descriptions of nature, then we begin to see how the Bhagavatam is describing how Krishna is manipulating everything. So as a devotee advances, separation from Krishna becomes less and less. And Yudhishthira Maharaj, he's not only seeing the taste in water, among animals, I am the lion, but he's also experiencing how Krishna is directly doing things. He sees, Krishna is doing that. Krishna's arranging this game of dice, and so on. So he's asking then about Krishna's separation from Krishna in his abode in Dwarka. Okay. So
one question is about the original Brahma, and the super fast. How does it matter that sometimes Brahma comes down when it's super big thing? How does it know it? Or it comes this fast? And when someone's meditating,
yeah.
then what does it feel like a few seconds for Brahma and stop? How does he go down? And feel great.
Okay. Understand? I will told the echo.
Like when Brahma comes out, he steals the calves, and so he's asking if Earth is moving so fast in Brahma, how does Brahma enter into?
Right now, the door opens, and somebody comes in, and somebody recognizes it's Bill Gates. You know Bill Gates? How much money does Bill Gates have? I think he has 10,000. 10,000 is a lot, right? $10,000, 10,000 ladus. Yeah, 10,000 rabbits in the backyard. Bill Gates, as far as I know, has $10,000 million. So Bill Gates walked in and went over to put a donation in the box. Yeah. Well, what do? He put, has to be, he comes down to, normally he's surrounded by people, on levels where his energy, his consciousness, everything else, but he comes into here. Okay. He adjusts. Right? Yeah. Maybe he just puts 3 gold coins in the box. Let me get $3 here. Yeah. So same way Brahma, he comes down and he adopts, in terms of the environment. Huh?
If you stay down for like 100 years.
Yeah.
Would you be like wasting time?
I read this thing. It said, if Bill Gates drops a $100 bill and bends over to pick it up, he's lost $20,000 or something. His income. So, yeah. And this is why the Devatas don't like to come down to Bhumandala, because for them it's a waste of time. Like if Bill Gates went down and started doing like a janitor's job in one of his places like that, because his level of intelligence and operating level is so much higher. So on. Yeah. It's a nice analogy. You start thinking about it, you can understand. At the same time, too, when he takes up those jobs, but those jobs are essential. Right? If all the janitors stop working on Bill Gates's offices, then Bill Gates might have to come down and do the work himself because it's essential. The only place you can really perform pious activities is on this level. Because in heaven, things are just so nice, you can't do any austerities, even if you want to. And in hell, things are so bad, you have no chance. So this is a level where, the demons and the demigods all get their, like on a ship, somebody's down below, throwing coal into the engine. And the captain's up there and stuff, directing the ship. Unless those guys put the coal in the engine. So those human beings do sacrifice, the Devatas, the ancestors, everybody else. Okay. Yeah. She touched her glasses. Now she's touching the chain. No.
And also ask, in the 10th canto, in the story where Brahma steals the cows,
Yeah.
it says that he was gone for a moment,
A
right?
moment. Yeah.
And but it was a year.
Yeah.
So in some ways, it was like 100 years or 100 moments for Brahma. The time was different here. So
Yeah.
Give me a second.
Yeah.
Measuring of 11 moments equals 1 second.
This canto is a description of time in this Nimishena. What else we got? We got Muhurta. Muhurta is 48 minutes. So the description. So in the Sanskrit, in the Bhagavatam, when it says he was gone for 1 moment, maybe there's listing of a specific, what have I forgotten? Naimish is the time it takes to blink your eyes. Yeah. Naimish. Naimish, Aramya. Yeah. So, but again, for him, on his normal level of capacity, it seems like just a moment, but for us, it's a year. I understand when you're trying to like catch a fly, let's not swat them, okay? Just try to catch a fly. The fly is experiencing your hand starting to move, and he starts his motor, he starts taking his direction. He starts flying away, like it's like this, like, yeah. Now if I was yogi, I could have extended my hand and caught that. Yeah. And even devotees, I know, I mean, maybe even you've had experience yourself. One devotee, Krishna Kshetra, Krishna Kripa. He's in Houston. Okay. And he's married to Guru Bhakti's sister. they had a Giri Raj sweets business. They're making all these like salty things. Really, the things once you start eating, you can't stop. It's not very nice, but really nice. And he had more customers than he could supply. And he turned their garage into a place to cook, and he had like walks and everything there. So he said one day he was out there with his mother-in-law and his wife, and they were cooking everything. And his foot slipped on the grease. He started to fall face first right into this wok full of boiling ghee. They started to fall right into it, And they said at that moment, time just dilated, and this intelligence came to him what to do, and he moved his arms, and that's when it pushed and was able to push the wok in such a way that the impact carried him away from it and stuff like that. When he went to normal time. He said when it was happening, he was seeing the faces of his wife and his mother-in-law were going, yeah. And even Malati, she describes them. They had the altar. They opened the temple in London, and then Shyamasundar made this beautiful altar and stuff, and you could see Prabhupada giving the lecture and stuff, and there was audience in front, and they could see that Prabhupada was coming to the end of their lecture and hadn't quite finished dressing, Radha London Ishwar, And so then when Brahmachari stepped back and hit the column was holding up the altar, and they realized Shyamasundar was a really good artist, but not a good contractor. So the whole thing started to shake and was going to fall right on the deities and smash them and everything else. And she said, Prabhupada could see this. So he came off the Vyasasan, moved forward, with one hand cleared the paraphernalia, other hand took water on his hand. And she said it was so much like, that's the word chivalry. Chivalry, they're so chivalrous. And Ham, please allow me to help you. With the other hand, he held the column up. And they were all like, she said, for her, Rema was like, and then everybody else, all the human beings then reacted. And when the Prabhupada was holding up with one hand, it took like 3 brahmacharis to hold it back up like that. Suddenly, it's pretty much reported experience. And of course, the U.S. Army is trying to figure out how to be able to induce this experience at any time possible. Well, most science is funded by the medical industry or the military. Either you're learning how to kill people or heal them. The 2 biggest selling kinds of books are, what are the 2 biggest kinds of books, selling books? Recipe books and diet books. Yeah, how to kill people and injure people, and how to. Hey, we're just going to stop one or the other. Then, stop one of them, need the other. Yeah. So yes, he's coming down, and it seems like, it's just different experiences are possible. It's the same way, is that we're here, and the president didn't. He's the president, but yeah, at some point, if something necessary is happening here, then he can come right here, and then he needs to relate to us and ask something, When you get Mongol articles this morning, did you see this? Where did they go? What did you do with the Giwicks, Mongol articles? The Giwicks, the Mongol articles, what you do with it? We're over here. Thank you, quick, get them. Thank you very much. He's got to be able to, relate to us. It's just like when you play with your younger sisters, right? Yeah, Okay. So Yudhisthira he's coming down to his consciousness. Yeah. Yes, sir.
No, you said something pretty interesting. I read this in the Yep of the Devotion. It's so technical and it's so complicated. There's lots of bosses.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if this goes by definition. Lots of bosses. It's like just really, really pleasant. It's really not really.
It's just tasteful.
Yeah. And so we just try to understand. Maybe it's like not a proper question, because sometimes the way we that's upon certain questions and parts of the question. So, but just where's the logic of loss and loss in the spiritual world?
It's not.
It defies the idea.
No, it's not. It's not in the spiritual world because as soon as it's in the spiritual world, it's like, you know.
Because this whole description, the last chapter, the last wave of people from the devotion,
Yeah.
the last couple of chapters of the last wave.
The northern part.
Yeah.
Thing.
And just wondering why that would be in there as part of the science of devotion.
Well, you know, what he's doing, okay, is sadhana bhakti, bhakti, the 5 primary rasas. And the northern part includes mixtures of mellows. And he's pointing out which mixtures are good and which mixtures are bad. So he's kind of, for us, he's contrasting. And then so we can understand, like, you know, this. Yeah. But it's not a part of, it's directly Lord Chaitanya, gross sense gratification and simple activities, you know, but then also, you know, not properly mixing the things. And so many examples are given of, you know, actually the word rasa vas means shadow, vasa, nama vas. So it means like weak. Actually, rasa vibhats, which is the real disgusting, you know, things. Again, we always use the example of the vanilla peppermint ice cream. No? Okay. Yeah. I like the chocolate. I use chocolate peppermint. Yeah. Yeah. But then chocolate broccoli ice cream. Yeah. 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 I always come up with a lot of them. Like, okay, let's have, you know, we got cauliflower and strawberry jam. Yeah. I mean, probably the nutritionist would probably tell you, yeah, it's good. It's good for your health. Eat it. Yeah. Shut up and eat it. Yeah. But it's, you know, it's just, and then David Haberman, recommended by Krishna Kshetra, by Professor Ravi Gupta. He's a nice guy, apparently. He wanted to become a devotee, but somehow or other his career went muddy. He's a very famous Indologist. So he did a translation of Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, big publishing about this thick. One of the few books I ever bought. It was $115 or something. Yeah. But it's really good, very nice. And in the beginning, he has a real long, maybe like 20-page introduction where he goes through what was the political situation with Akbar and all these people going on like that. And Lodi is very well. Okay, that was the situation. And Swami was there where these things happened. Then he goes through a history of rasa, you know, and he goes back to the Puranas or something where it's describing, it says that rasa is ultimately everything. Everything is based upon rasa. So you go from, you know, the very, very beginning of physics in the West, you're asking these guys, well, why do you take this as you know, axiomatic truth? So I'm a scientist. I don't, religion is based upon faith. We scientists are not based upon faith. Yeah. So then you don't have axiomatic truth, axiomatic faith in the postulates of Euclid. Right. Because yeah, you start talking. I'm at the University of California. The guy, one professor, showed us how the number system is generated from Euclidean principles. Without Euclidean principles, what is a point? What is a line? You cannot generate numbers. You know, we're rational. You have no possibility of any kind of rational thought without. I mean, Sariputta growls and says, "Well, so and so." Yeah, you can kind of basically create a logical system which is not Euclidean, but it's so far out that, you know, very few people could even begin to comprehend what it is. But yeah, the Vedas are different kinds of jnanis and stuff. We're just taking one kind of jnana, which is very limited. Okay. And so that's what's happening. You know, they're based upon, in a certain things, which, and then you ask them, you're asking Galileo and all these people, well, why do you accept these things? Why do you accept Euclid's laws and stuff? They said, well, because they feel right. Yeah. So ultimately, the basis of everything is rasa, and that's an inherent nature of the soul that we can distinguish it. Yeah.
That's the question: why do my values adopt the attitudes that they have? I mean, surely they must have some perception of that themselves.
Somewhat.
Some perception of the fact that there's rasa that's involved in sequestration.
So David Haberman, he goes through the history, starting back drama with Bharata Muni, who they say, existed probably 500 BC. There's some stuff, and then it comes, okay, here we got writings and stuff, and he was the father of all drama, And so he tried to say what it is that invokes the different feelings, the bhava, the bhava, the rasa. What is it that invokes these? What is the ambience, the stage setting? It's the direct activities of the actors. It's vibhava, anubhava, sapika bhava, and the same elements Rupa Goswami is using, he's describing those as drama. So what we're doing is drama, singing, dancing, and drama. And so anyway, it goes to Abhinava Gupta and all these people. And one of the people along the way, I think it was Abhinava Gupta, was a Kashmiri Shaiva Brahmana, from the 9th century or something. And so he said the highest essence of the drama is Shantaras. The drama elevates you to the point where basically all the material rasas go away and you come to the point of neutrality. And he said this is almost like what the great aesthetics and sannyasis are achieving. Yes. Okay. Peace. Most people, that's a lot. Most people. I saw a guest book. It was in the Mayapur temple. The building where Prabhupada's room is the back of the new temple, the old temple, whatever. The Hanumatpresaka temple. And before the two of the guest rooms were actually one big kind of reception room. I went in there sitting there, it was open. And there was a book there, looked up, and it was like a guest register. And so many people, like members of Parliament and movie stars and stuff, had just written their comments. And maybe like 3 out of 5 was, oh, got so much peace here, so peaceful. That was the thing that they, people, when they come into the temple, it's the same way, right? Come onto the temple property, it's just, wow. Wow. Peaceful.
When operating within this restaurant in Denver, we've been operating for a couple of years, and this is a small, I'm not ready to put it there now, but I think those days, we were 16, 17 million strong community. And everybody was a local life too. Everyone, nobody. And because we had the restaurant on the ghost every day, we went on buying on 4 times a week. It's 5, 6 artists a day, And then there was a busy sentiment over all this was going on by 15, 16, 17 people, And we feel an awful lot of stress. There was times when we get on each other's case and we walk away. But when the guests came to the restaurant and I heard this,
the temple room is clean. There's no violence in what you're seeing, like dirty things and things that shouldn't be there. Clean lighting and stuff. So many people. I asked like 23 people how they became devotees, brahmachari, and like in 21 out of 23 cases there was a mystical experience. Just strange thing. Remembering some of them now. First time when I went into the temple, it was the same thing. We were alone there. It was just different world. And all these like psychedelic pictures on the wall. The art in the original Christian book was primitive, simple, but boy, it was like impressive. It was wow. By making it more refined and stuff, I think some ways you've lost the iconographic. They fill in all the textures for you. Before it was just like, just look at them. You had to like yourself. Yes. Yes.
It's an abstract question. Because I've been thinking about your Parliament comparison, to Bhakti or just the context of the conversations that you've had the last month. Like, for example, Carl Jung, he talks about archetypes. And I'm wondering what those are in our tradition. For example, we know Varnashram Dharma system is coming from Krishna. Brahma, on behalf of Krishna, Brahma created it. And there are different systems like that. I'm just curious, are archetypes something that Krishna that Krishna created, or are they just concepts in our minds that help us understand our nature or something?
If you look into YouTube, it's like one thing is retired CIA agent lady tells you how to read body language. Like retired CIA interrogator tells you how to read body language. It's naturally, you're very expressive in your body language. Other people just sit there. Yeah, you communicate with you. You communicate a lot with them. You're a good dancer. Yeah. It's very interesting when people say, I was thinking, almost always in our culture, they point to their head. Yeah, yeah, but the Hopi Indian will say, I would be like this. I've been thinking, yeah, and you would, yeah. So where is the consciousness? Or somebody else might say, I was thinking. Like that, yeah. Well, so I mean, this is the whole point. This is why we want to have these dialogues with them. But as far as I can tell, first base Prabhupada said amongst all the Western philosophers, Carl Jung was the most intelligent. Yeah. So, okay, so then we're looking at him. That's what we're doing. So we put 4 diplomas, probably recommend the 4 diplomas. Okay, let's look at those. Yeah. But there's so many other things going on. But then his experiences, it seems that he was an honest person. He was writing down what he was experimenting, he was seeing, he was having these experiences, and it was very much from a previous lifetime. He was just didn't have any system where he elevated himself. No, from a very young age, he was already having these experiences of these phenomena and how they related to people on a gross level and how they had caused them to manifest a body. So what's it called? There's Virat Rup, just seeing the universal form. Then Hiranyagarbha is where you start to see how it's potent and alive. And then the next one is Paramatma. That's what you see, the hand of God and things. So as far as my reading him, he was on the level of Hiranyagarbha, where you see what this like experience people is coming out, like he would be experiencing, right? The broader perspective of your karma, not all the time, but different times and stuff. And he would have these experiences coming to him. And then he would see, I'll talk loudly. Yeah. So for him, it was like that. It was just like I got Kshatriya, being an expert Shudra. Yeah, this is for me. No, these are just roles, combinations. I mean, I know people in psychology, even devotees and stuff, who just said, especially when they're going through these cycles. I always quote Nanda Manjari when she had her first baby and stuff. She did this. The consciousness of being a mother at some point just wow. Of course, many men too. Sometimes there's a baby, after a couple of days, something happens, and then you bond and stuff, and now I'm a father, and hey, that's not bad. When you go and talk with your father and stuff, and you go, yep, yeah, your grandfather, yeah. So these are all just archetypes, what he's calling universal archetypes, which exist there for everybody, because he was identifying other things like, in dreams, people would dream about snakes and all these kind of things. But yeah, even all the bodies on the celestial levels. Somebody is the mother of the snakes. Yeah, weird. Yeah. But yeah, dreams, when they dream of having some sexual relation and then being mother of snakes, yeah, it's very kind of common. That's where it's happening. That's for them, it's a reality. And it manifests down in grosser levels, and we get pythons, anacondas, what else we got? Rattlesnakes, yeah. But it's an architect. They may draw a few drawings and stuff, and the clients are there, they're talking about stuff. You want that, this, and that. Then from that, it goes to, from the architect, it goes to civil engineer, probably, maybe first, right? He talks about you can't do that, and you can't do it. Sorry, there's not, no material exists that can do that right now. Okay, yeah. Then it goes to a contractor, then it comes down to an electrician, right? And actually putting this stuff into place and cursing the architect for came up with this stupid idea. Always. I remember, right? You remember this, right? The guy who was fixing your veranda here. He was cursing whoever designed this thing.
You hear that on job sites. So if the person designing this were putting it in, they would have done it very differently.
Yeah. And that's why, again, like someone like Bill Gates coming down, good manager goes down and sees how things are going at every level and stuff. Yeah. So that's for recording there. These parts, I'm trying to relate up and talk. What was he? Because next, he was experiencing these things. And you read the Bhagavatam and stuff, and you start filling in the blanks and stuff. What is it? Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Yeah. Did you read that? It's a good book. It's a very nice book, But it's totally inconsistent. Totally inconsistency. It's not inconsistent. It's totally consistent with our culture and our philosophy. But it's just taking it into details. I am Marx, you are Lenin, brothers. Okay, yeah. So applying these where they're needed, and some things may not be needed. I mean, this may be the end of the electronic age, right? Everything is electronics now. And so, Prabhupada was saying it's not necessary. It's not a good kind of technology. You don't need it. You don't need, like, for one point in France, everybody had big hats. I mean, maybe like for 6, 7, 8 years, everybody had big hats. Just like that. What was one of the greatest economic failures in the history of Europe? It was based upon one flower. You know that one? Tulips. And tulips started to become worth an unbelievable fortune. The red tulips here bringing like that. One tulip was worth $20,000. Or one guy pretty by mistake ate a tulip because he thought it was an onion. It was like the most expensive onion ever eaten. But all of a sudden, everybody realized this is stupid. I mean, they're pretty, but it's stupid. So they had nothing but your tulips at that point. Instead of being a multi-billionaire, you had tulips. Tulip flower. The same way, electronic energy and all this stuff, people realize it's stupid. These are toys. They're not really getting anything done. And the world's starving to death. And you can eat potato chips, but you can't eat microchips. Potato chips will get you through times of no food. They're better than microchips will get you. Okay. And also, you can burn potato chips, in case you didn't know. If you're ever lost in the forest, and all these snacks, Cheetos, all this stuff, I don't know what there is now, they all burn. They're really good emergency fuel like that. So. Yeah. But after that, there's a terrible residue. Okay, so Prabhupada ki jai, Darshan ki jai, back home, back to God. I want to thank our online audience. We have 12 participants. Carlos Rold, Shatrapma Palika, Divya Dristi, Gracias, Spain, Ishvari Radha, Lakshmi Radha Devi Dasi, Makachili, Manasikama, Miyasaki, Abhinandan. It's interesting. Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much. All glory